Napoleon Bonaparte didn't take Europe with swords, cannons, and muskets alone. There were signatures in it, seal wax, ledgers, balance sheets. Behind the roar of war, another machine was working. Quiet, disciplined, and ruthless. Treasury officials, notaries, bankers, clerks, a whole army of numbers. While generals moved fronts, these people moved figures. Most of us meet Napoleon in one single image, the man over the map. Rapid marches, surprise victories, that battlefield genius aura. It's a powerful picture, but it doesn't finish the story. Because Napoleon's empire wasn't built only with gunpowder. It was built with a financial order that kept money, credibility, and the state itself standing. France rose because he rebuilt its financial spine. Napoleon understood something most leaders learn too late. A state can beat its enemies for a season, but if it wants to last, it has to finance itself better than they can. And that's the part school books often skip. After the revolution, France inherited a treasury in ruins, so how does a young Corsican walk into that chaos and pull the country back together? How does France manage to carry war, law, and modernization at the same time for 15 years? Let's step back. By the late 18th century, France looked elegant on the outside and cracked on the inside. The monarchy was drowning in debt, and the tax system was a scandal. The richest stood aside while the burden sat on everyone else. The revolution explodes in 1789. The political order collapses, but the arithmetic stays: debt, deficits, distrust. The new regime tries an emergency fix: paper money called assignats, supposedly backed by church lands that had been seized. At first it feels comforting. Money is out, the market will move. But it doesn't last. Inflation runs off the rails, trust evaporates, prices jump, and everyday trade starts to feel like a gamble. Armies are marching in wooden clogs. Creditors say, not paper, metal. France has ideals, but on the money side, its back is broken. All right, that's the mess, so what comes next? Napoleon enters in 1799 as first consul. He's 29, a soldier, yes, but also by instinct a builder of systems. He sees the priority immediately. Credibility first. Because if your money has collapsed, your army and your plans can't stay standing. Until you stabilize the currency, nothing else holds. So, while the revolution's heat is still in the air, he makes a decisive move. He creates a bank. Not the old regime's privilege machine, but a hybrid institution meant to serve the state's stability and the economy's oxygen. In 1800, the Banque de France is born. Private investors provide capital. The state grants privileges and sets direction. The mix is deliberate. Full state control invites political money printing, full private control risks, finance being captured by a narrow circle. So Napoleon builds a mechanism between those extremes, one that discounts commercial bills, gets payments moving again, and issues banknotes in Paris under defined limits. The message is simple. Your money will circulate, your wages will hold value, trade will breathe. Because trust doesn't come from speeches, it comes from anchors. Look, Napoleon drops two major anchors. First, he professionalizes the treasury. He brings in a quiet, disciplined figure, Nicolas François Napoleon. Cash flow is centralized, arrears are recorded, controlled, and cut down. The state stops living on improvisation and becomes a state that keeps accounts. Second, he gives France a currency with a measurable standard. In 1803, the franc germinal arrives, tied to fixed weights of gold and silver. And just imagine what that means after years of money melting in your hand and prices changing by the day. A society like that doesn't want promises. It wants measurement. The franc provides it. This isn't just technical, it's a trust pact. The baker, the soldier, the supplier. Everyone needs to believe tomorrow's money will mean what today's money means, and the franc makes that belief possible. So, is that the end of it? Not even close. Money can't be strong on its own. It needs a tax system behind it. Under the Bourbons, taxes were often collected through private intermediaries, an engine for corruption and resentment. Napoleon cuts that out. The state collects its own revenues. Inspectors aren't walking around with bribe bags. They're walking with ledgers. The cadastre expands. Assessments become measurement-based. Taxation isn't set by bargaining. It's set by record and inspection. In 1807, a Supreme Audit Court comes in. In Napoleon's model, auditing isn't "we'll check later." It's the nervous system of trust. Where did the money go? Who paid? Who dodged? Who spent? These must be knowable. All right. The system is on its feet. Now the war. Once the foundation is stable, Napoleon turns to the question that defines his era. How do you finance continuous war without repeating the monarchy's bankruptcy? Here's where he looks modern. He treats war not like a romantic epic, but like cash flow. Victory isn't only military success, it's revenue. Defeated states pay contributions. Grain, horses, uniforms, metal, whatever is requisitioned is priced and entered into the books. Occupied territories are told, you will feed this army. So the treasury in Paris doesn't swallow the entire cost at once. For a time, the front carries the front. After Jena, contributions flow from Prussia. After Tilsit, new money flows follow. As long as the empire keeps winning, it becomes a system that can feed itself. And look, he diversifies funding too. In 1803, he sells Louisiana to the United States for $15 million, cash and bonds. He chooses money over a dream he can't defend. In conquered territories, he turns administrative chaos into scheduled revenue. Laws, customs, budget timetables, everything gets systematized. And to keep commerce breathing while armies march, he encourages savings funds and local discount mechanisms. In Napoleon's view, the economy isn't a side detail, it's the war's second front. So where does this system start to strain? Every system has a stress test, and for Napoleon the test is in the one arena he cannot command, the sea. He wants to choke Britain. In 1806 he creates the continental system, European ports close to British goods. Britain takes the hit through trade. Credit shakes, Britain folds. On paper, it's clean. But incentives don't obey paper. Smuggling grows into an industry, neutral flags become disguises. Coastal towns look the other way because they're trying to live. The blockade doesn't fully suffocate Britain, but it bruises Napoleon's allies and port economies. Britain reroutes trade, adapts its finance, and stays upright. Ports go quiet, prices break in strange places. Napoleon responds by tightening control, more customs men, more raids, more penalties. But the lesson is blunt. You can extend policy with force. You cannot replace economics with force. A continent won't stay deliberately poor forever. Markets find cracks, and the more the state spends to plug those cracks, the more brittle the system becomes. Napoleon sees that reality first in the ledger, before he ever admits it publicly. For a while, victories cover the strain. Austerlitz buys a year, Wagram buys another. But the math keeps turning and then winter arrives. The 1812 Russian campaign isn't only a military disaster, it's a balance sheet disaster. What's lost isn't just soldiers, but trained manpower and accumulated experience. Horses dying in snow aren't just tragedy. They're the collapse of logistics. Supplies positioned in advance burn during retreat. Overnight the model flips. The front no longer carries itself. The center has to empty itself to rebuild what the ice swallowed. Creditors become cautious. Even the best managed treasury cannot carry a war that consumes faster than taxes can refill, forever. But look, this is the key point. When Napoleon goes, the structure doesn't vanish. Paris falls in 1814. The emperor goes into exile. Yet the bank remains. The franc stands. The audit system keeps working. The tax collector stays on the road. France now has a financial spine. That's Napoleon's deeper legacy. He didn't only shake Europe, he standardized France. He fused law, money, and administration into a single engine, and that engine outlived the man who built it. Now bring it to today. This period reads like a handbook for the modern state. A central bank with private shareholders but public aims, a currency built on a measurable standard, broad taxes collected directly by the state, a treasury run by professionals, and one hard truth. No matter how brilliantly a war is fought, if the financing collapses, even the strongest structure can fall. But if we stop here, we miss the warning. Systems that run on constant external income, contributions, confiscation, plunder, or today's version, permanent deficits justified by growth, make the state dependent on momentum. Fixed costs normalize, larger armies, larger bureaucracies, bigger programs. Then the shock hits. Winter, war, recession, crisis, and the cash engine under the spectacle can't carry the load. That's when governments reach for tools that look modern but rhyme with the past. Money creation, emergency borrowing, and the hope that confidence will recover. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Economic history is, in many ways, the ledger of those choices. So what should you take from this? First, financial literacy isn't a hobby, it's citizenship. If you understand how credibility changes borrowing costs, You'll hear central bank statements not as words, but as consequences. If you understand how tax administration maps an economy, you'll recognize when reform means opacity, not transparency. If you understand that law is the skeleton of credit, you'll see why sudden rule changes scare capital away. Second, real wealth isn't just a rising chart. Durable strength comes from structure, money people trust, taxes people understand, courts people believe in, accounts people can audit. Those outlive parades. Illusions crack under stress tests. Your life isn't a state, but the principal scales. Build on cash, flows you control, skills with demand, and assets that survive tight money periods. Speculation sets the table, structure gets you through winter. Third, money and power still sit at the same table. Napoleon understood it. If the monetary system serves the plan can move mountains. If the plan ignores the limits of the monetary system, the mountain slides back. It's the same today. Sanctions turn banking into a battlefield. Rate decisions tighten or loosen a nation's breathing. Once a currency loses trust, it doesn't come back by decree. Those who grasp that stay standing. Those who don't become warnings. And for the closing image, keep this, a map, and beside it, an open ledger. Napoleon never let go of either. When the line on the map and the columns in the book say the same thing, the system moves. When the fantasy on the map starts crushing the reality in the ledger, defeat has already left home. History doesn't repeat word for word, but if you don't understand it, it can still crush you. If this gave you a new perspective, subscribe. History has answers, and I'll show you where to look.